Today I thought I would show you how I painted these snow flowers. So what this was inspired by was coneflowers that were standing. I leave all my native plants standing all winter long for the birds. And then if we happen to get snow, which doesn't happen too often, but when it does, the plants get these little snow hats, which I think are adorable. So that's what this painting was inspired by. So I thought we could paint this today since we're in the Northern Hemisphere. We're winding up the end of winter. Before we move on to all the bright spring flowers, we'll do a muted winter flower painting. So you'll see that it's mainly blues, grays, and browns. So I am going to ask you to decide on your color palette. I mixed these up last night. Mine is haze indigo, haze blue, and those are both by Schmincke. This is some haze brown by Schmincke, haze black by Schmincke, lunar blue by Daniel Smith, and then I just kind of let them all, the browns and the blues, mix to make a nice gray. And so I just want different values. I want some light, some dark, because what we're going to do is try to make the area behind the flowers a little darker, just so the white will pop more. So, and then to make, as you know, I'm sure you know, snow is not just white, it has shadows. Sorry, I keep closing this. Okay, so there are subtle little shadows on each flower. And so for that, you'll need a purplish shade. So I just, for convenience, use Daniel Smith's Shadow Violet, just because it's easy. But you can mix up any kind of purple that you want. So any blue and red, and maybe with something to darken it a little. And then to make the stems, you'll just also want a darker color. This looks like I used a dark brown, maybe. So maybe a bluish brown or something. And to get these straight lines, we're going to do the easy cheat way. And we're going to just use an old bank card. And we're just going to kind of stamp the stems on, because painting stems can be kind of a pain sometimes. So get yourself an old card. Get your colors that you want to use. I think for this one, I'm going to try a little table salt, and we'll see what kind of effect that makes. So grab yourself, if you want, some plain old Morton's table salt will work great. I'm going to use masking fluid to mask out the little balls, just to make life easier. There's a couple other ways. You could just draw circles and paint around it if you wanted, or you could try painting it with your grays and blues and darks, and then after it dries, take a round stencil and rub it off with a sponge, kind of like you do the bokeh effect. So you could do that in random spots to get the white, some of the white back, and that might actually work really well. So you could also try that if you don't want to mess with the masking fluid. Okay. So that's that, and then you'll just need a few brushes, probably a smaller one and a bigger one. Okay. Your 2 jars of water, obviously, and let's talk about paper for a second. I decided I would actually break out my decent paper for this one. So this is Arches cold pressed, and the reason I want to do that is because I'm using the masking fluid, and I know that masking fluid will come off Arches fine, and I don't know how it will react with the other paper I like to use, but I do want to share with you that there are other papers that you could use. I really like this B watercolor paper. It's 6" by 9" and it's 140 pounds. And this is actually what I use for my inspiration cards, because it makes 4. So each sheet makes 4 inspiration cards. So I just use a paper cutter and cut them. And so I always have like just a stack of empty cards sitting here when I'm in. So when I'm in the mood, I will just use that. So this is great paper. I really like it. It does dry kind of fast. So if you want to do a lot of wet on wet, maybe it wouldn't be great. And then the other paper that I really like to use with watercolor and salt is called fluid watercolor paper. This is cold press 140 pounds. And I like the size. I really like working in squares. The only thing is tape does not come off this paper very easily. And so I'm afraid that the masking fluid wouldn't come off easily either. So I'm not going to use it, but I do recommend it. Like, it'd be good practice paper, and it's just good for other watercolor and salt projects. Okay, sorry about that. You grab a pen, a brush that you don't care about, because when you use it in the masking fluid, it's eventually going to ruin your brush. So go ahead and get a brush that you don't care about and rub some hand soap on the bristles, and then we're going to dip that in the masking fluid. And then immediately when you're done with the masking fluid, go rinse this off. And it's still going to ruin it, but it'll ruin it more slowly if you use the hand soap and rinse it right away. So other than, and then you are going to want, at the end, we're going to do some white finishing touches. So grab your favorite white acrylic pen, whatever that is. I have all of these, and quite frankly, I'm not really happy with any of them, but we'll just find one that works for us today. There's the Posca, the Molotov, One for All, and the Manjo liner. They all have problems, so, you know. Oh, and this one's okay too. The Butager white gel pens. These are pretty good. So grab that and start getting your color palette together. And then when we come back, we will get started. I'll see you soon. Okay, and we're back. I have my Arches paper taped off to about 4.5 by 6.5, just in case it turns out amazingly and I want to hang it on the wall for a while. And so get your painter's tape or whatever you use to tape off the edges. Get that all ready to go. So the first thing we're going to do is dip our crappy brush in hand soap. I already did that. And then I've got my masking fluid. And the first thing I want to do is establish where I want the flowers to go. And I don't want them just lined up across the page. I want them to look kind of natural. So the way I cheat and do that is I just spatter. So I've got the masking fluid on my brush. And I'm just going to put it in my left hand because I'm right-handed. And I'm just going to tap. And you can see it's just randomly making dots. So now I can use the splatters to make bigger flowers. And right now we just need circles. And they don't even need to be perfect. In fact, I prefer they're not perfect. Like, don't make them perfect. Make them kind of wonky. And because flowers and nature is not perfect. And don't worry about the little spatters if you don't use them for a flower. It'll just make snow. Excuse me, at the end. And then it's always I think it's nice to go right up to your edge of your tape, like the painting's continuing, you know, off into the distance, and make some smaller and some bigger, some higher, some lower. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I usually do odd numbers of things. So I will do another one right here. Okay. So now I have my flowers, and then the rest will be sky, and then the ground. So this has to dry naturally. So I will set this aside and let it dry, and go ahead and rinse your brush right away. And so to try to save your brush, make sure you put the cap back on your fluid so it doesn't dry out. And by the way, I'm using the core masking fluid, which I just like the size of the jar, and I like how big the jar is, easy access, and you can... Oh, and I think I forgot to mention, you will need something for the snow at the end, and I'm going to use the Dr. P.H. Martin's bleedproof white, like I always do, but you could use white gouache, or you could use even watered down white acrylic paint. So you will need that. So, okay, go ahead and clean off your brush. Let this dry naturally. Do not use a hairdryer on it. And then we'll get painting. See you in a bit. Okay, we're back. You can tell that your masking fluid is dry if you touch it, and it will feel sticky, but it's not coming off on your hand. So grab any kind of brush, the bigger the better, and some just clean water. And we're going to go ahead and wet the surface of the paper. You don't want it sopping, but you do want a decent amount of water so we can blend the blues and browns together to make a nice background. And if you're using arches, go ahead and let it soak in a little bit, just for a few seconds here. Okay, so you can see that it's got a nice wet sheen and it's soaking in a little bit, so we can get started. So grab a bigger brush. You could use a flat brush, you could use a round brush, it's fine. And I am going to try to keep some of the browns up top and just kind of leave a little white space for some atmospheric details. So these are the browns, and then we'll get more into the blues, the grays. And you can even leave white, but just remember what I mentioned about we want the space, the background near the flowers to be a little dark so the white flowers will stand out. Okay. Just adding some darker brown here and there. And then we will try to, while it's still wet, I'm just going to add some of this darker color right here where the flowers will be. Okay. And while it's still wet, we'll want to add, just trying to darken that up a tiny little bit. We'll want to add our salt while it's still wet. Okay, I think that looks good. So just get it somewhat dark and just have some variety of values in there. And then we will sprinkle it all with salt. I just did an even spattering throughout. And again, we're going to have to let this dry naturally. So set it aside and we'll be back. And you know what I'm actually going to do also? I'm going to spatter some dark while it's still wet, like we did before. This is just, I'm just playing here. And this will probably like blend in, but it might make some neat effects. We'll see. Some texture or something. So, okay. So I'll leave that alone and we'll be back. Okay, mine is all dry. And I was looking at it and my salt did not work very well. hopefully yours did something. Mine didn't really appear to do much of anything, so that's okay. So scrape any of the salt off that's still on your painting, and we're just going to keep going. So the next thing I want to do while you still have your masking fluid in place is do some stems. So we're going to try to not overthink it. We're going to use our plastic card to stamp stems, and then we're also going to just do some stems that don't have flower heads. So we want it to look just kind of loose and expressive. So I put some thicker, dark, this is neutral tint, and some brown. And what I'm going to do, so there's barely any water, there's a little bit of water, but not too much water. Because to use this card, you want it to be somewhat thick. So I'm going to test this though. So I'm trying to get paint on the edge of the card. And it's not going to be perfect. And that is actually the cool part of it. So let's get a scrap piece of paper. Okay. See how imperfect it is? I don't think you could really get that kind of impression with a brush. So that's why we're doing, oh, excuse me. Sorry, hold on one second. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so let's go ahead and put whatever color you've decided on the edge of your card, and we're just going to start stamping different directions. And it doesn't matter if there's gaps in it. In fact, I think that's kind of what you're going for. So just make sure every flower does have a stem of some kind. And then go ahead and also print some extras just here and there. And they can even go a little higher too. Yes, and that is Oso. Sorry. They're wound up today. I don't know what's going on. Okay. All right, let me dry that and we'll be right back. Okay. Before you go any further, just go ahead and make sure you don't have anything wet still on the tape and on your masking fluid before we start rubbing it off, so you don't smear anything. Okay, so now oh my god, my dogs. I'm so sorry. I just use my finger to rub it off, but you could also just use a polymer eraser to take it off as well if you don't want to use your finger. So go ahead and get that removed. Okay, so those are going to be the flower bases. So imagine those are the seed heads. So now you're going to grab a small brush of some kind, like a detail brush. I'm going to use this size 1 Da Vinci Cosma Top Spin brush. And you're going to use the same dark color that you used for your stem. And we're going to create the little bases of the flowers. So they kind of look like maybe a cup, if you can imagine it's... Okay, so we'll just do that with our little detail brush. And again, it's always good to mix up your colors so you're not using just the same color. And try to use a light hand like we always do. Don't grasp it too hard. We're just going to kind of hold it in the middle, because we're not going to be too overly precious about it. And this is just the base, and we'll go back and finesse it in a little bit. And since we're working with this darker paint, let's go ahead and just add some quick little leaves. So you'll just get a round brush of some sort. This one is a size 3 of my Fusion brush, so it's just a round brush. And we're going to just add some leaves here and there. And the way you add your leaves, well, here, let's do it on a practice one, is you start with light pressure in the pointy part, and then you increase your pressure, and then you lift right back up. And that's how you can make a very easy leaf shape. So very light, press, and then lift up again. So maybe just do a couple practice ones just to make sure. And then stagger them, of course, on each side. So we're going to add some of those to our coneflowers. And just here and there, don't overthink it. And it doesn't matter if they're not perfect, because we're going to add snow to them and they'll look very cute. Doesn't need to be on every single one, but those will be fun. And I actually see this one right here. I'm going to try to reprint it just a little bit. So maybe it'll be a little bit, it just doesn't want to go. Oh, that's okay. That's good. Okay. All right. So we are going to start on the snow part of the flower. So grab whatever white you want to be working with. I'm going to use the bleedproof white. And like in my other videos, I am just going to work in the cap. Just wet your brush clean. Just please make sure you're using absolutely clean water, because you don't want to get your white paint dirty. Been there, done that. Okay. So what we want to do now is make it look more like there's snow on here. So it needs to be like more uneven and textured instead of just the smooth. So we're just going to kind of take like little circular dabby type motions and make it irregular. Again, because when snow falls and coats something, it doesn't look perfectly circular, right? So we're just trying to take this very straight line that the masking fluid did, which is actually why I don't really like masking fluid, but and then we're just going to soften it up. So do that for all your flowers. Okay, so put that away for now. We're not done with the white, but go ahead and put it away for now and dry your piece, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now it's time to add some shadows to our flowers. So if you've seen any of my other videos, you know I have a favorite dry brushing brush, which is this one. So let's just practice it for a second. So I want to take some of this shadow violet, and I'm going to, there's two different techniques that I use. Like one would be just dry brushing. So you just get like a really broken small amount. And another good technique for getting kind of organic looking things is take the brush and you just roll it on something so you don't control the shadows. So we can do it both ways, whatever way you feel more comfortable with. But we don't want to add too much dark, but we want to put it like at the base and then a little bit throughout. So more at the base and then just kind of a little bit throughout. So get your shadow color and we'll just see what works. Yeah, so the dry brushing's working pretty well here. See how it's adding shadows but retaining the white. So that's working pretty well. I like it. I'll just probably keep doing Okay, and I'm just going back through and softening some of these with some just clear water. Just because I like the way that looks, how it looks kind of blurred and shadowy. So we're doing good. And another thing you could do, if you wanted to do, you could wet your whole flower with just clear water and then just drop in some of your shadow color at the base and let it spread naturally. So if you don't feel comfortable doing what we just did, you could always do that. And it always helps to just practice a little too on a separate piece of paper. Okay, so those look good. I'm happy with mine. So let's start messing with our, well, let's dry it first. Let's dry it. Make sure it's very dry, and then we'll be right back. Okay, it's all dry, and just before we put away our dark, I just see a couple of these that could use a few more little wispy bases to the flower. So I'm just going to add just a few here and there. Some of them just weren't doing it. Okay, I'm going to dry that. I'll be right back. Okay, here you might see me struggle just a little bit because we're going to get out our white pens and we're going to try to add some detail. And these pens really irritate me. You kind of need to have a scrap piece of paper, and you have to kind of not only shake them but gently push them down to get them to activate the flow of ink. So just have something nearby. And what we want to do is add some white details to the little little bits of the stem that we added. So these little, I don't know what they're called. Sorry, I don't know what they're called. And we're not going to go crazy, but it's just adds a little contrast And you know how things are frosty in the snow and it kind of coats everything, so it kind of makes it look a little more realistic. Okay, I'm making sure I didn't miss any of them. So one cute little detail is we're going to add the snow like it's building up on all the little leaves the way it does. So get your pen to work. And you could use your gouache or your bleedproof white, but I'm just going to try to use these pens, and I don't know because they really make me crazy. Okay. When they work, they're great, but then okay. So now, while you have your annoying white pen out, let's just go through here and we can add a few more white squiggles here and there. If you have any that are too smooth looking or anything that's bothering you other than your white pen that doesn't work. Jeez. Okay. Try this pen. I'm telling you, these pens. So I'm just kind of adding some scribbles here and there, maybe. Okay, this one's flowing a little bit better. If anyone knows of white pens that they're happy with, please let me know. Okay. It's just adding a few white highlights here and there. And you could even do a couple places here and there along the stem. Like maybe some of these thicker stems, you could just add some white, like there's snow on it or something. Okay. All right. So now we need to add some snowfall. So I'll be right back. Okay, I think before we add the snow, this would be a good time to take a final stock of your shadows and your stems and your leaves and see if there's anything else you want to add. And I'm happy with mine. So I'm going to just leave it. I'm going to grab my white again. Make sure I have a very, very clean brush. Get some white paint out. And remember that you want to use a smaller brush for smaller splatters. If you want really big snowflakes, you would do a bigger brush. So if I wanted very large, I could use a big brush like this. And I am going to put it in my left hand and hold it loosely again because I am right-handed, and I'm going to tap with my right hand. And we're going to make the snow. This is one of the fun things to do. And don't go overboard, but it is fun, so I like to splatter. It does go everywhere, so just know that. And this would probably, I'm going to touch up a couple of these leaves that didn't get very white because my pen was not working. So I'm just going to add a little white to some of these spaces. Okay. Okay, we'll dry that. And then we'll take one final look. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so give it one last look. I'm happy with mine. I think it's going to look nice. And then we just want to remove the tape very carefully so we don't rip anything. So get it started and then pull it off slowly at an angle. Just take your time. Okay, there's how mine turned out. And then if you want to imagine what it would look like, you know, in a mat and in a frame, I think that would make a lovely painting to hang on your wall during the winter months. So I hope that you like yours. And I would love to hear if you had any problems, or if you have a white pen you can recommend, please let me know. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for coming by.